All right, Fromly, I've got a theory for you that might just blow your minds. What if everything we've been watching in From is one giant messed up game? Yeah, I'm talking chess on a cosmic scale, with at least two opposing forces pulling the strings. And who's one of the key players? Our boy in white, of course, but I think there's way more to him than meets the eye. The boy in white isn't just some random kid popping up to give ominous warnings. I think he's an entity that can either exist in multiple forms at once, or is at least working with multiple agents against the dark entity. Crazy, right? And I'm calling it. I think he's working with Martin. Or maybe he even is Martin in some weird multi-dimensional way. And you remember that dog from season 1? Yeah, I think he's in on it too. Together, they're trying to fend off a much darker entity that's been hiding in plain sight. And I'm gonna call it right now. The boy in white is the good monster of this twisted place, fighting against a dark entity that we've barely glimpsed. I believe we've seen the dark entity, but I feel like we've only ever really seen him once. Now, we have seen hints of the dark entity. The boy in white appeared with the dog back in season 1. You guys might remember that I pointed out back in our season 2 or season 1 breakdown how when Victor emerged out of the cellar and went back in the town that there are bodies everywhere. At least one of the bodies looked like he got handled differently. If you look at this body closest to the dog, you'll notice that this body is ripped in half and its face looks like a monster. But if this is one of the monsters who died, who did this to it? Who could not only take out a monster, but rip it in half? My theory, it was the boy in white. When we first saw this flashback in season 1, the directors did something interesting because the very next scene, it transitioned to a scene of Victor in his bedroom with his drawings. And what drawing is that on the wall? A giant white monster. I'm convinced that's the boy in white in his true monstrous form, like the hero form that he takes when it's time to throw down against the creatures. You even see him trying to distract or comfort Victor after the massacre, spinning on the merry-go-round, almost like he's saying, "Don't worry, kid, I got this." But here's where it gets juicy. Remember when Jim and Tabitha were out in the woods and they were approached? At first, it looked like the dogs were coming for them, but hold up. What if they were barking at each other? That's right. What if the dogs are manifestations of the two opposing forces, the boy in white and the dark entity? They weren't about to attack Jim and Tabitha. They were squaring off for their own twisted showdown. I think one was the boy in white's good manifestation and the other was the dog's, and the other dog was the evil entity's manifestation. And they were there to take Tabitha off the board, just like it took out Toby. The evil dog / entity wanted to eliminate Tabitha because she posed a threat to its plan. I think that's why Sarah was manipulated into killing Toby. It was all part of the dark entity's strategy to knock players off the board before they could make their move. I have a theory that this place feeds on hope. More specifically, the boy in white feeds on hope. The more hope that there is in town, the more power he has to do stuff in order to fight back against the dark forces at play. I feel like the more hopeless people feel, then the stronger the dark entities are. It would explain why the monsters screech, why they walk but never run, and it also ties into why the monsters gut their victims and leave them littered around town like the day after New Year's. They're not just killing. They're draining hope from the town. Not convinced? All right, let's go back to my theory about how everyone has a role to play in this town. From is like a real-time strategy game or a role-playing game. Every character has a role. Christy is the healer, Boyd's the sheriff, and Kenny's the deputy. Even Tabitha is a key player taking on the role of the Chromonacle. So what the hell is a Chromonacle, you ask? Well, Tabitha might just be it. I believe the Chromonacle is a protector of sorts and is a major key to unlocking the game. She's digging, both literally and figuratively, and we're learning that she's connected to something deeper, something ancient, and maybe, just maybe, she's the one meant to disrupt the game while Boyd inspires hope. Tabitha's role might be to uncover the truth, to dig up the secrets buried deep in the foundation of FROMTown. She's the disruptor. She's the one who can mess with the dark entity's plans in ways no one else can. But what about Jade? Jade is probably one of the most mysterious characters. He's smart, cynical, and always digging into clues that no one else notices. The man's clearly got the brain power to crack codes and decipher the town's mysteries like no one else. I think Jade's role hasn't been fully revealed yet, but it feels like it's coming. Maybe he's the scholar of the game, the one meant to crack the codes and figure out how to beat the system. His connection to ancient symbols and Victor's drawings might hold the key to getting everyone out of there. But here's the catch. Jade's walking a fine line. He's smart, but he's also being pushed by the dark entity, just like Christopher was. I feel like the dark entity is actively trying to break Jade. He's constantly seeing horrific things, but is short of being taken off the board entirely. We've already seen hints that Jade might be heading down the same path, one of madness. But if he can hold it together, his intellect might be the key to beating the game. I also think Toby was going to be another important piece in this game, but the dark entity had Sarah take him out before he could even get on the board. This whole town is like a chessboard, and I believe Boyd is more than just a sheriff. He's the hero, the one meant to inspire hope and level up everyone else around him. That's why Boyd's speeches and actions always seem to uplift the town, giving people a reason to keep fighting. Sarah's a wild card, no doubt. She's been manipulated by the dark entity, but I don't think that she's fully on the dark side. Think of her as the town's free agent, caught between the boy in white and the dark entity. Sometimes she's a pawn of the dark entity, like when she took out Toby. But other times, she's almost like an ally to the boy in white, like when she pushed Boyd into the faraway tree. Sarah's caught in the middle of this cosmic tug of war, and she doesn't even realize the weight of her actions. But here's what I think. If she picks a side, it could shift the balance of the entire game. All throughout the show, we've seen Boyd inspiring, giving speeches, staying positive. Everybody's hopeful. Even when this place attacked the mind of his wife and put him in a position where he had to put her down himself, he maintained a semblance of hope. Even when his son stopped speaking to him and things started looking grim for them to leave, he was still inspiring hope. He instilled a system. Crops were growing. People were in the house before dark, and each house had a talisman and rules. Boyd continued to inspire hope by inspiring stability. Maybe people could carve out a life for themselves in this terrifying place. When Boyd said this place couldn't break him, it was like a slap in the face to the dark entity.
You don't like me!
That was the moment the dark entity put its plan into overdrive. It put a plan in motion to go even further and make Boyd watch as someone close to him was taken away. The creatures want to break Boyd because they know that a broken Boyd means a broken town. And a hopeless town? That's fuel for the dark side. We've seen the monsters display pack-like behavior back in Season 2. When Boyd, Donna, Jim, and Randall were staying the night in the RV, the monsters surrounded the RV, but they didn't behave like they normally do and antagonize the people inside. Instead, all the monsters did was stay at a distance and watch because the dark entity, the alpha of the pack, was nearby and wanted to take on Boyd himself. It's in this moment that I began to theorize that the monsters and the dark entity may be working together, kind of like Scar and the hyenas from The Lion King. They'll attack, but only if the alpha doesn't want their victim first. We've already seen Boyd's hope put to the test. His wife's breakdown, his son's silence, his struggles with leadership. But through it all, Boyd has kept believing that there's a way out. The monsters know if they can crush Boyd's spirit, the rest of the town will crumble too. And we can't have that, can we? So yeah, I think this is a game of good and evil, and we're watching a chess game being played in front of us with them only being superficially aware of how they're being played. The boy in white and the dark entity are making moves, and the townspeople are just the pieces on the board. Only some of them are starting to realize the game they're caught in. I think the Forest and the Boy in White are powered by hope, which is why the Boy in White saved Boyd at the end of season 1. And I think the evil entity is something that is infesting this place with its dark energy, like a locust invading a farmer's crops, feeding off of despair. And at the heart of it all is the Forest. The Forest itself soaks up whatever energy is flowing through this town. That's why the Boy in White saved Boyd at this end of season 1. Hope gave him the power to act. I think the dark entity is trapped in FROMTown just as much as the people are trapped here. I think he's trying to generate enough strength to escape, and in order to do that, he needs to feed on hopelessness. We had a scene back in season 2 when Sarah was talking about the entity and how it was laughing at Boyd.
It's laughing at you.
It was then that she mentioned how the entity wanted to escape. I think this place is a prison for the dark entity. What if this entity has been here since at least the 1500s? What if the entity is luring people into FROMTown with that tree in the road in order to get fodder for its strength? What if the Boy in White was one of its victims that took on another form? So that's my theory. I think the Boy in White draws power from hope, and that's why he saved Boyd at the end of season 1. Hope gave him the juice to act. On the flip side, the dark entity, it feeds on hopelessness like a parasite, and is trying to generate enough strength to escape its prison. But what do you think? Are you down with this theory, or do you have one of your own that you think tops it? Let me know in the comments, and let's figure this thing out together. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep the conversation going. That's all I have for this one. I'm gonna check you all later. Peace.